certain songs that we're picking out, you know, that showcase, you know, the influence of certain music and Wilby's development, that hopefully, you know, people will get an understanding of, oh, I can see the Art Blakey influence in him. I can see a more pop-oriented Earth, Wind and Fire influence in him, and so forth, you know, because as a drummer, he was able to play dynamically with a Charles Earling, right. You know, and specifically with Charles played, he turned the amps on his organ way up. So Wilby had to play harder and louder.
Oh, yeah.
And then when he played with McCoy, he had to play intensely. You know, not so much volume oriented, but he had to play very intensely. And then when you go play with Alina Horn or Diane Reeves or one of the singers, you still have to play intensely, but you have to play in terms of the vocal, that the vocal's out front. So those are all different sensitivities that a drummer has to accumulate in their skill set. You know, as opposed to just playing loud, I need to hear myself, I want everybody to hear me. It's like, no, you need to be tasteful.
And melodic.
Yeah, and that's where the musicianship comes in.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
and you can say that, Ray interjected that he was a melodic drummer, and with you having the experience that you have in singing and performing, you can definitely see that. You know that.
Yes, it's all, you know, there's so many ways to express oneself artistically, and you know, a drummer can be, you know, percussive and very rhythmic,
right?
And of course that's the fundamentals for being a drummer. But all drummers are not melodic.
Right.
So when they're playing their solo, you can actually hear the language that they are speaking. They are making a statement, and you can actually follow his speech pattern and follow the just through the improvisational element during the solo, just the melody. And the statement that he wants to make. So it's not just rhythmic tricks or dynamics, and that's rare.
Yeah.
Well, I've had the pleasure of watching Wilby perform with Alfie Moss and the Dexter Coates Project. In fact, when Jazz on My Mind relocated to the East Coast, we came here in June. That was the first band that I had the pleasure to see. And I'm very thankful to have had that experience, because it was all God prepared, God put together, because who would have thought that things would have transpired the way they did? When I met Wilby with Alfie and Dexter, I was so impressed by his musicianship, the way he played, the way he was in tune to what they were doing. It was just unbelievable. I said, that is a Class A drummer.
Yeah, Wilby had a way of listening and constantly adapting what he would play. And a lot of times, even before he was set up, he would tune his tom-toms to notes. You know, so that, you know, and many times when he would be playing, if you were up on the stage with him, you could hear him singing. You know, so even when he would be soloing, he would be singing the melody of the song at the head of the song. So he's matching that rhythmically. Yeah. So it's not just boom, boom, bang, bang. It's like it's done in terms and in context of what's happening or what should be happening in the music.
That's why I said he's probably one of the best drummers ever that I've heard. I'm serious. I've heard a lot, but Wilby is, man. I don't even know if you could put a classification on it. You know, it was just that amazing.
You know, you couldn't put him in a box.
No,
when in all honesty, Wilby was playing on such a high level at such an early age. I mean, he left here when he was like, what, 18 years old? And so I was just getting into the performing arts as an adult and a mother of 2 children. And so I was a basic beginner. I did not have the opportunity to play with him until much later in his career, and in my formative stages of my career. He's very gracious to me. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, that's Ray. She's cool. You know, she works in the community. You know, let her get the microphone for a few minutes. You know, so he's always gracious, always humble. And he and Gerald Chavis and I and Faustina Dixon, Faustina, Gerald, Wilby, they all started playing when they were really little kids.
That's right.
Very little kids. So we went in different directions in terms of our careers, but then our careers, you know, later on that converge because we're all educators at heart. So it's been interesting. And when Wilby would come home, people would say, Wilby's home, Wilby's home, Wilby's home, oh, Wilby's home. Men, women, children. We used to line up, and the line would be around the corner to get into the club where he was playing. They had a club down here called Flight Deck. It used to be at the airport, then they moved it downtown. Wherever he was, they had a Baby Grand on Market Street before the Grand Opera House renamed their new theater Baby Grand. Wherever he was, the line was wrapped around the corner a couple of times to get in to see Wilby Fletcher. And in those days, they would have like 2 sets where they would turn the club over so more people could come in. And people didn't move. They were not going to lose their place in line to get in to see Wilby Fletcher. It was, you know, and although he was had great humility, as he should,
yes, he
because
did.
it's a gift from
yes,
God.
Yes, definitely.
You know, we have the opportunity to nurture natural talent or not. But the gift comes from the Creator, and he knew that.
And we have to give him all the praise and thanks.
That's right.
You know, when you mention a name like Faustina Dixon, who Jazz in My Mind, I interviewed Faustina. In fact, her video just went up on the website. Tremendous interview. That's also someone who's played with you. Tony Smith.
Yes.
A wonderful trumpet player.
Yeah.
I was with Tony a couple of nights ago, and that's another gentleman that played with you. These musicians were taught by the great Robert Boise Lowry.
Yeah.
That says a lot for Boise. I mean, you look at Dexter Kuntz, who is Boise's nephew.
Yeah.
You look at Faustina. You look at Wilby. You look at Tony Smith. Boise laid a tremendous musical foundation for each one of those individuals.
Yes. His great-grandchildren attend classes here at the Christian Cultural Arts Center. Faustina, I went to high school with Faustina, and she would get on the bus with a baritone saxophone,
which
right?
is bigger than
Which
she
is bigger
is.
than she. And people, and she has a lot on her mind, and she's a deep thinker. And other kids were like, wow. And I don't know, I just gravitated towards her. I said, this girl got something going on.
Yeah,
and I want to find out, you know, what it is. We became very good friends, and we maintained our friendship even as she lived away from here for more than 20 years, but we maintained our friendship. Yeah.
That's tremendous. That says a lot for this community of Wilmington, Delaware. I mean, I had no idea when we relocated here from Los Angeles, when we relocated in June, that I would get such a wealth of not just great musicians, but wonderful people. Everyone we had met since we've been here has been so hospitable, so warm, and humble. Because you mentioned how the humble spirit with Wilby, Faustina, Tony, you know, you as a performer. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm not characterized as humble.
I beg to differ.
Depends on who you talk to. Depends on who you talk to. Demanding. Let me say this though, and certainly Wilmington has a very rich tradition, and we welcome you, and we're so pleased that you're here. But there are challenges, like the high school that Clifford Brown went to, Howard High School of Technology. They don't have an instrumental music program.
And
how sad! Oh, how sad! So too few schools have instrumental music programs. There are great needs in our community that are really not being met, and I think that we should be honest about that. Faustina took the initiative along with Wilby Sr. and Wilby Jr. and Vernon James to start the Wilmington Youth Jazz Band, and a number of other people that volunteer to work with her. There's a lot more to be done.
Well, Jazz in My Mind is going to do whatever it can. We attended one of the board meetings for the Wilmington Youth Band by Faustina's invitation. And when I interviewed Faustina, I gave her my commitment to do whatever we can, because we know the youth are very, very instrumental in what we have to do. Eventually, you know, we have our great legends, but eventually that torch needs to be passed on.
Yeah.
And they have to be cultivated.
Yeah,
these kids have to be planted. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why Christina Cultural Arts Center is so important. Not because I said so.
Yeah.
I lived in West Wilmington on 3rd and Broome. I didn't even know Christina Cultural Arts Center existed. I didn't come to Christina until I was after I graduated from college at the invitation of Gerald Chase.